Welcome to the Sports on Tap NEO High School Football Show. Be sure to join the conversation by liking us on Facebook and following us on Twitter at SOT Podcast. Use the hashtag SOT HSF. Here are your hosts, Rob Trump, Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, and Sean Duffy.
Welcome to Sports on Tap's Ohio High School football coverage. Our Week 5 recaps from games in the Greater Cleveland Conference, the Suburban League, and the Southwestern Conference. And, guys, welcome back. I'm Rob Trump. We have Ed Dick, Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy here live from Studio J. Guys, welcome back. Week 5 in the books now. And, a few surprises I thought this week. At least in the Southwestern Conference. Not sure about your guys' leagues. I know there were some games we were looking for in the Suburban League. There were actually some interesting games. I was interested in how about Cuyahoga Falls and Brecksville, how that game was going to go. We also had how North Royalton would bounce back. You look at Solon and Strongsville. That was a big game in the Greater Cleveland Conference. And then Shaker Heights and Medina, that was an intriguing matchup to me to see. Can Shaker Heights continue to roll in conference play after a big win at Brunswick? So without further adu, guys, let's go over to Josh Jeffy in the Greater Cleveland Conference and see how Week 5 went.
Good evening, gentlemen. It's good to be with you once again. Well, real quick, as a reminder, our game of the week for Week 5 pitted two GCC schools together. Euclid Elyria. We'll be discussing that game later on in the show, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But for the rest of the GCC, goes like this. We're going to start off Menor versus Brunswick, and Menor cruises to a 35-0 victory in this one. Menor started the game with 5 straight scoring drives, led by, as usual, quarterback Ian Kipp. He was 12 for 7 for 143 yards, 3 total touchdowns. That's 2 passing and 1 rushing. And then Menor's running back Brian Trobel, 2 touchdowns in this one, and that's really all Menor needed. Brunswick in this one had to start their third quarterback for the season, senior Nick Haber, with his first varsity start, went 3 for 5, 21 yards. In this game, both the previous 2 starting quarterbacks, Stocco and Charette, are kind of touched with the injury bug for this one, so they had to go with their third starting quarterback of the season, as Brunswick drops to 0-5 overall, 0-2 in the conference, and Menor improves to 5-0, 2-0 in the conference.
It was when you're down to your third string quarterback, it's obviously not the most ideal situation, especially when you're going against the number 2 team in the state. I needed to correct some other publications who said they're the number 1 team in the state, but they are the number 2 team in the state. Doesn't really matter. They 1 or 2. They're good. They're good enough to be number 1 10 times that to Sunday. They're legit. From the Brunswick end, though, I have to say, defensively we played pretty well. Holding 35 points is pretty good, holding Menor too, and they did start with some short fields too. Unfortunately, due to the inexperience of quarterback and some other things going on, we turned the ball over a little bit more than we wanted to. And not that we don't need to help Mentor out scoring points as far as giving them short fields. They're plenty of depth to do that themselves. But the second half was a very good effort on our defensive part. They did have their starters in through the third quarter at least. I'm sure it was a running clock, so it expedited a little bit of the game, but it didn't get worse than halftime. So there's some positives to take away from there for sure, and we'll see what happens with the quarterback situation going into the next game against Solon, and defensively continue to stay playing tough. Short, make sure the special teams are doing what they need to do, and we'll see what we'll give some teams some fits this year. I have no doubt about that. The kids played with a tremendous effort this week. Not that they haven't been doing that the whole season, but they weren't scared of Menor, and they're not going to be scared of anyone else on the rest of the schedule.
Thanks for that, Ed. Once again, as we mentioned, Brunswick will play host to Solon, and Menor will actually travel to Benida next week. Now, speaking of Solon, great game in the GCC. This was the game probably of the week in the GCC. Solon escapes with a 17-9 victory over Strongsville. Solon improves to 5-0, 2-0 in the conference. Strongsville drops to 3-2 overall, 0-2 in the conference. This game was really tightly contested, pretty much the whole game. It was 3-3 at halftime. Teams exchanged some points later on during the second half. Solon actually was able to get their last touchdown on a pick six late in the second half. Strongsville did have the ball. They did manage to drive down. With 18 seconds left in the game, Johnny Major, for a quarterback for Strongsville, hit a 46-yard pass to Garrett Clark, and Garrett made it to the 1-yard line. Solon's defense, and we talked about them, we have been talking about them all year, stepped up, made the biggest stops, did not allow Strongsville to get in the end zone.
Oh, wow.
And that's how the game ended, 17-9. Some stats for each team, some statistical leaders. Solon was led in the running game by Khalil Eichelberger, 125 yards and a touchdown. And for Strongsville, Johnny Major passing 134 yards with 3 interceptions in this game. And in a close game like that, those turnovers could really either make or break the game. Solon comes away with a victory. As we mentioned, they will travel to Brunswick, and Strongsville will travel to Euclid. The third and final game we're going to discuss right now before we talk about the game of the week later on, Shaker Heights, Robbie mentioned them, improved to 4-1, 2-0 in the conference with a 33-20 victory over the Bees of Medina. Medina drops to 2-3 there, 0-2. Medina's lost 3 straight games. In this one, Medina was led by quarterback Ryan Fisher, 181 yards, a touchdown and interception. However, he was sacked 8 times in this game. Chris Kelly, Jake Radinger added rushing touchdowns apiece. Quarterback for Shaker Heights, William Shinebeck, 10 of 11 yards, very efficient, 62 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. But Shaker was led by their running back, Rasheen Ali, 29 rushing attempts, 222 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. And Shaker was lucky that he played so well and the team played well enough to win, because in this game they had 15 penalties that totaled 128 yards.
Wow.
If they're going to take that next step, obviously being more disciplined, keeping those penalties down, they're going to have to do that if they want to be considered one of the top teams in the conference.
That's a great point for Shaker Heights. They've always struggled in getting conference wins, and now they've gotten 2 so far to start the season. They need to get these wins before they get into the big matches against the East Side school teams, and Strongsville for that matter. So, good for the Red Raiders. And obviously Medina and Strongsville, they got some work to do. Strongsville did play the 2 toughest teams up to this point in the conference, and they've acquitted themselves very well against Solon, Menor's Menor, obviously. So,
right.
And Euclid next, so it doesn't get easier for the Mustangs.
No, if they can get Euclid and unfortunately, if they were to win a game at our expense, they can put themselves in that Division I, Region 1 playoff hunt and possibly sneak in there into one of the bottom 2 spots.
That's a huge loss, though, especially they got stopped on the 1-yard line. Solon with huge stops. You got to be able to figure out how to punch it in. What was it, 1st and goal at the 1-yard line, and you can't punch it in. That's huge. That's great defense by Solon, but got to figure out a way.
That's been the calling card for Solon, I think, as long as we've been covering the GCC, is they have been a defensive team. And, a 17-9 game when Solon's involved is not necessarily it's not a cause for concern. It'd be more a cause for concern if a team like Menor only put up 17 points against the Strongsville or something like that, because they're built to score a lot of points. Strongsville's just as comfortable in a shootout as they are in a defensive battle. In fact, probably more comfortable in that particular state. So, hats off to the Strongsville for going to play that team. But again, Solon is predicated on stopping teams from scoring points and winning ugly. And that's, again, just building towards couple things in the GCC as we're seeing kind of break out. We're seeing the cream. We're seeing Euclid. We're seeing Menor. We're seeing Solon kind of take that step, and walk and separate themselves. And now they're going to have to jockey for who's going to, not only win the conference, but probably get whoever wins this conference is probably going to get top tier seeding in the playoffs one way or the other, because again, I don't think anybody wants to play a team like Solon who's comfortable defensively in a low scoring game, or a team that like Menor who can score points at will and in chunks. So, the GCC I think is really coming down to those three teams.
Well, I guess we're past the halfway point, so now we can really start diving into Joe Itel. We started last week. We'll continue this week. So Division I, Region 1, if the playoffs were to end today, the top 8 teams would make it. 4 out of the top 8 teams are from the Greater Cleveland Conference. Menor and Solon are number 1, number 2. Euclid is number 5, and Shaker Heights would get in at number 8. Medina and Strongsville real close to that final playoff spot there, number 10 and 11. And Brunswick rounds out at the bottom. In Region 1, Elyria is in Region 2, the only team that is in Division 1 Region 2, and they are number 17 with their record that they have so far this season. Once again, the schedule goes like this for Week 6. Menor will travel to Medina. Solon goes to Brunswick. Strongsville will play at Euclid, and Elyria will play Saturday at Shaker Heights. My player of the week in the GCC, the Shaker Heights Red Raiders running back Rasheen Ali, 222 yards on 29 attempts, 3 touchdowns. So congratulations to him, and along with the rest of the Red Raiders and the teams that are victorious this week in the Greater Cleveland Conference.
Nice job. Well,
looking at, and again, just to kind of go off of what you're talking about in Division 1, Shaker Heights is right now at Week 5 at that 8th spot, but again, they're basically surrounded by a St. Ignatius team and a St. Ed's team that is conceivably not where they want to be at this point of the year. Normally, we're used to seeing them at the top of that division. And what's striking me is their level 2 point divisor, I guess you call it level 2 points, is just so much higher than that of Shaker Heights, and you wonder when that starts to kind of even out, when those points start coming in for those teams like St. Ed's and St. Ignatius.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's going to hurt Shaker Heights right now is the fact that we don't have any wins.
Yeah,
and they're going to face a 0-5 Elyria team, and if Shaker were to win that game, they will get level 1 points, but they won't get level 2 points from Elyria because they have 0 wins.
Right.
So right now, if you're Shaker Heights, you need Sean Benedictine to start winning some games, and then and Medina for that matter, or in Brunswick, and then really when it comes to conference play, that stuff all kind of evens out.
Right.
So you hope that the teams you beat start collecting wins. So they have a what I would consider a very winnable game this week against Elyria. And then they get into the meat of their schedule. Menor, Solon, Strongsville, and Euclid. I'm sorry, Menor, Strongsville, Solon, Euclid.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to separate them from making the playoffs or not. I mean, they're not going to be able to make the playoffs with a 5-5 record in Division 1, Region 1 with the wins they already have. They need to knock down probably at least 2 of those teams that I just mentioned out of the 4 remaining to get into the playoffs.
Right, and I think it's conceivably doable for Shaker Heights. Menor is a tough out, but Solon, I think Strongsville's performance against Solon, they kind of brings them back down to attainable in a win. And Euclid, I think, while Euclid's very good, and we'll talk about how well they performed against Elyria in this past week, I think Euclid is a team that if you catch them on the right night, you can kind of counteract their speed and athleticism. And I think Shaker Heights is going to have to take advantage of that because I don't see them getting past a Menor. And, I agree with you, Ed. If they go 0-3 in that stretch, they can kiss the playoffs goodbye. But if they can muscle out 2 wins, and I think that there's a whole lot of points to be had for them towards the back end of the season. But, they have to go out and take care of business first.
Exactly.
A lot of game left, but already halfway through the season, and Week 6 coming up this Friday. So it's crazy how quick things can go. But great job, Josh, on the GCC. And now we'll go to Week 5, our game recap in the Southwestern Conference. At first, we'll get right into it as Amherst hosted Berea Mid-Park, and these are two teams that have been scoring at an insane pace so far this year, and nothing would change this last Friday, putting up almost 1,200 yards of total offense in this game and scoring 83 points combined between the two teams. In a game in which Berea Mid-Park quarterback Trevor Baczynski broke an OHSAA, he actually made in the record books by throwing 3 touchdowns and 550 yards passing in this game. So that's good for 14th most thrown by a quarterback in OHSAA history. So congratulations to him. 550 yards passing just in this game alone was insane. But, again, it was the Amherst defense, amazingly, that needed one stop to win the game. And it kind of was like Strongsville and Solon at the end of the game, stopping Berea Mid-Park wide receiver Garrett Waite just short of the goal line, in this case, to hold on to a 45-38 win. Amherst Steel gets a big-time win, and they stay undefeated. Senior wide receiver, though, Garrett Waite, he did break a Berea Mid-Park record for receiving yards in a game. He had 13 receptions for 221 yards to lead the receiving core with Berea Mid-Park. And then Dwayne Holland, he had 6 receptions for 149 yards for Berea Mid-Park. And again, for Amherst, it was senior tailback Kennedy Scagliazzo. He ran the ball 34 times for 271 yards and a touchdown, now giving him 1,104 yards and 17 touchdowns on the season.
In week 5.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. Their offense continues to score. I mean, Scagliazzo is the main guy there, but they have other weapons they use, and they just have a great offensive system. But, when Amherst's defense needed a stop, they stopped Garrett Waite just short of the goal line, and that was the difference. Although, looking at the game recap when I read it, I know Coach Hunick thought that he actually got into the end zone.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of controversy there, but Amherst Steel did hold on 45-38 over Berea Mid-Park. Now Amherst stays undefeated. And they are 5-0, 4-0 in conference. Berea Mid-Park 3-2, 3-1 in conference. So a big time win, and it was Dan McCroskey. He carried the ball 13 times for a career high, 143 yards and 3 touchdowns. For the Comets, the Comets actually rolled up 442 rushing yards in this game.
Good Lord.
And Amherst will travel to Olmsted Falls for a big-time SWC matchup. And Berea Mid-Park will travel to Midview as Midview looks to try to knock off the Titans.
The thing that one of the things that we talked about with Shaker Heights is the fact that they don't get those second-level points.
Yeah.
Berea Mid-Park right now is in that same boat. The teams they have defeated are not. They don't have too many wins themselves. So,
right.
Amherst was a great opportunity to get some points, both on the front level, the level 1 and level 2 points, because they would have had 4 wins by then against good teams. So Berea Mid-Park right now faces the same situation as Shaker Heights. They need to, they need to take care of business, obviously, against a Midview team. But they're not going to get any second-level points off that win.
Yeah, the points aren't.
The points aren't going to help them out right now, and especially in a loaded Division I, Region 1, where Berea Mid-Park resides, they're going to need to do some damage on the second half of their schedule, and there are plenty of points available. Yeah. I know Coach Hunick knows this, and I know he's going to get his guys ready to go and tackle that.
It's pretty evident, Ed, here looking at their schedule coming up. I mean, they have Midview next week, but they also they're on the road at Midview. They get Olmsted Falls and North Olmsted at home, but then they have to go on the road against Avon Lake and Avon, which is no easy task considering the way Avon Lake's playing and Avon's playing. I mean, but again, like you said, they have the opportunity to secure some much-needed points and put themselves at least in a position in that Region 1 to see if they can secure maybe a low-level spot. 6 through 8 probably is what they're really shooting for in that particular region.
All right, well, we'll move to Avon as they travel to Midview. And Avon's offense, they've continued to get better each week. And this last Friday was no different. It was Aaron Andrizal scoring the first points of the game and rushing for 153 yards on the night to lead this Eagles offense. The Midview Middies, though, however, they drove inside the Avon 30-yard line on 5 of their first 6 drives in the game, but managed only 6 points. And I think that sounds like a trend. The week before, and I can't remember who it was. I think it might have. I don't think it was Olmsted Falls, but Avon's defense really held teams. They let them go, and then they know when to clamp down. As they again held Midview to 6 points right there. Avon, they won big in this game though, 49-6. Avon quarterback Ryan Malloy had 2 touchdowns, 150 yards passing for the Eagles. For Midview, it was a solid night, though, by Andrew Gooch, throwing for 260 yards. Avon, they were just too much, and they improved to 4-1, 3-1 in conference. They will host Westlake coming up as Midview. They fall to 0-5, 0-4, and it doesn't get easier for them as they will host Berea Mid-Park. So, again, 49-6, Avon victorious there. Now, North Olmsted, they travel to Westlake, where Westlake, they're looking for their first win of the season. And they took on a very good North Olmsted Eagles team as Westlake. They trailed at half 21-14. North Olmsted quarterback Liam Fay, he would start off with a touchdown pass to put the Eagles up 27-14 in the third quarter. But the point after failed. And this would be key in this game as it was second and goal for the Westlake Demons quarterback Jacob May. He found Jacob Jablonski for a really impressive catch, tying the score at one point. After a Demons timeout, then they kicked the point through, and it gave Westlake a 34-33 lead with 45 seconds to go. The Eagles, though, they had a drive going, but a few chances they threw it into the end zone, did not convert. And the Demons, they get their first win of the season, 34-33, as Westlake was led by J.J. Coleman. He rushed 33 times for 203 yards and 3 touchdowns on the night. And for North Olmsted, it was quarterback Liam Fay. He threw 3 touchdowns. Westlake now improves to 1-4, 1-3, as they will travel to Avon. And North Olmsted with a big loss here as they fall to 2-3, 1-3 in conference, and will host Lakewood coming up. But North Olmsted looked like they had this win, and Westlake not giving up, and really with a nice comeback to come back and win in this game and getting their first win at home. So, nice win for Westlake.
Yeah, congratulations to the Demons. Great win against North Olmsted, and a heck of a way to get into the win column, especially with some of what they've been going through the last year and a half or so. Yeah,
North Olmsted, had some nice wins on the season, and this is a point where North Olmsted needs those points, and not going to get it against Westlake. They got to hope that Westlake starts winning some games and gets right back in the thick of things.
I mean, if you look at North Olmsted, they're really away from any real. I mean, their real only hope is to somehow knock off a really good Amherst team and knock off Berea Mid-Park, assuming Berea Mid-Park takes care of business in the back end of their schedule. So they kind of put themselves in a hole and a loss to a Westlake team that was winless coming in. Doesn't do anything to help their situation playoff wise, at least according to the great and powerful Joe Itel here. But congrats to Westlake, man. They came in on the road. That's tough to go in on the road and win against a pretty good team like North Olmsted has been all year. That's great. And that's something you can build on. You can kind of see they get not a pretty winnable game against Lakewood. Then they go on the road again against North Ridgeville. So we could see this team, having a really solid record. They may miss out on a playoff spot because of where they're at currently and how things fall. But, they could salvage the season and come out of it as, a really nice maybe 7-3 run. If they 7-3 best case, possibly, 5-5 overall, considering what a meat grinder the SWC is every year.
Well, they got to beat some teams that have some wins, because you look at Lakewood, they don't have a win. And right now, North Ridgeville.
Yeah,
coming up.
And then to finish out their season with Amherst, Berea Mid-Park, and Olmsted Falls.
That's gonna be a tough. That's a meat.
That's a tall order, but hey, stranger things have happened. They play every Friday night for a reason, right?
That's right. Well, and we'll move to Olmsted Falls, who traveled to North Ridgeville. And these are always tough games for both of these teams. They play very hard. And North Ridgeville, they're looking to try and turn things around after a few ugly losses here in the last few weeks. And they'll take on Olmsted Falls here. The Rangers, though, they would strike first on a 19-yard pass from Matt Steinmetz to Cade Riley. But the Bulldogs, they would respond on the very next possession with a 10-yard touchdown reception by running back Jack Spellacy. Olmsted Falls, they were up 20-7 at halftime in this game. But the Bulldogs, they continued the scoring in the second half, and they just went on an absolute run, winning big in this game, 46-14. The Bulldogs had 512 yards of total offense. For the Rangers, they were held to 209 offensive yards. And for Olmsted Falls, it was running back Michael Howard, who was the leading rusher for the Olmsted Falls Bulldogs. He had 141 yards on 12 carries, as the Bulldogs now improved to 4-1, 3-1 in conference, and will host Amherst coming up, as that's going to be a big-time game for them. And the Rangers fall to 1-4, 1-3, and will travel to Avon Lake. The Bulldogs' only loss on the season comes at the hands of the Avon Eagles. So now they'll have another chance maybe to get some more points here, as they're going to face a very tough Amherst team, but they'll host Amherst. So I think, at home, maybe Olmsted Falls could try and get a big win here.
Yeah, they're going to need all the help they can get. Right now they're on the outside looking in at the 10 spot. And their level 2 points aren't looking so hot right now either. So, they need to get some wins on the back end of their schedule starting this week with Amherst. And, you have 2 5-0 teams still on the docket, and you have a Berea Mid-Par team in 3-2 that can obviously put up points and get their own wins. So, you're going to hear us talking a lot about level 2 points in the next 5 weeks, but they're going to be very, very important. When you're looking at joeitel.com and you see level 2 points, that's going to be your main. That's going to be a big indicator where they're at now and where they could potentially be. Because the current average is where they're at now. If you're looking at level 1 and level 2 points, let's see. White House Anthony Wayne has 73.5 level 2 points. They have 28 level 1 points. Whereas you look at Avon Lake, they have 10.2. Current average. The level 1's 30, so they now exceed White House Anthony Wayne's level 1 points, but the level 2 points is only 41. So when you average that all out, White House Anthony Wayne has almost 3 full points on them, and that's a huge amount when you're talking about when you do the math on here. And quite honestly, don't ask me to prove it. That's what Joe Itel's for. But
show your work, Ed.
Yeah, I'm not showing my work at all. Joe Itel does all the algorithms for that, but. That's your main indicator, folks, when you're looking at these. When you're looking at Joe Itel, look at the level 2 points, and that'll give you a really good hint as to how good the teams they have beaten are.
And sometimes, I think that's where it could hurt maybe some SWC teams a little bit, is one non-conference game. You're going to get maybe some of their points, but if the SWC, when you play, Lakewood and Westlake and North Ridgeville at 1-4 now, those teams obviously aren't going to help you point-wise. So that's why it's a little bit crucial for these teams to really start beating some of those good teams in the SWC. Otherwise, you're probably not going to go anywhere.
Exactly, and you're 100% right. I think it's a little bit of a disadvantage when you have your full schedule.
Basically, conference.
Yeah, exactly, because you beat your own teams, and
Yeah.
if they're not. If you don't have dominant team, if you don't have a hierarchy of teams, like you kind of have, like it usually sells itself out for most of the year. But if you have 5-5, 4-6, 3-7 teams for the majority of your teams, you're not going to get those upper echelon points, and even more so, you're not going to get that many teams into the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes up and how it all works out. But Lakewood. They traveled to Avon Lake in this next game. The Shoremen, they just continued to run with Connor Riggs as he rushed for 3 first-half touchdowns, and Avon Lake led at halftime 35-0. And give credit to the Shoremen defense and special teams. They also scored in this game, but in the second half, it was Avon Lake quarterback Jack McCulloch. He threw a 57-yard touchdown to Luke Fetters. Running back Michael Corbo scored on a 30-yard run. And the Shoremen, they stay undefeated, beating the Lakewood Rangers 49-0 in this game. They now stay undefeated at 5-0, 4-0 in conference, and will host North Ridgeville. As the Rangers of Lakewood, they fall to 0-5, 0-4, and will travel to North Olmsted. So 49-0, Avon Lake a winner there. My player of the week in the SWC has to go to Berea Mid-Park, Trevor Bazinski, the quarterback, and Garrett Waite. Trevor threw for 550 yards and 3 touchdowns to get in the OHSAA record books. I mean, and it was 14th on that list. And then Garrett Waite, a combination to be reckoned with, 13 receptions for 221 yards. Just an impressive performance by Berea Mid-Park. They did lose in that game, amazingly enough, but it's tough. You can't give the award to Kennedy Scagliazzo every week, as I did the last few weeks. So, I mean, he's a great running back, and there's a lot of great players in that.
We're going to have to rename it this Kennedy Scagliazzo Southwestern Conference Player of the Week
Yeah.
award here soon.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, some big numbers really in the SWC, and Westlake, happy for them to get that first win. I thought that's the only one that maybe surprised me a little bit. And actually, the Berea Mid-Park Amherst game I knew was going to be one of those offensive games that was probably going to be a high number, and whoever probably had the ball last would win. But give credit to Amherst. They continue their undefeated season. So now Amherst and Avon Lake, the 2 undefeated teams in conference right now.
Heading for a collision course here soon, I would imagine, correct?
Yeah. I don't know what week it is, but yeah, it'll be coming up pretty soon. So we'll have to see how that shakes out. But there's your SWC. We talked a little bit about where they would be in the playoff rankings if they were now. So when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the Suburban League with Ed and Sean as they'll go over some of the games from their conference in the American and National Division. We'll give you our game of the week and where we'll be this week come Friday. Go on our Twitter page at SOT Podcast. Go to sportsontappodcast.com for all these stories, video, and pictures. And go to our YouTube page where we archive all of these shows so you can get all the latest updates and standings from the Southwestern Conference, Suburban League, and GCC, and more. I'm Rob Troutman. We'll be right back. We're Sports on Tap.
Are you a business? Want to be featured on Sports on Tap? Get in front of different age groups in the local community. Contact us at sportsontappodcast@gmail.com for more information. RRT Productions, specializing in creating sports recruiting videos for all high school athletes. Want to play at the next level? Promote your talents with a video to send colleges. Affordable, experienced, and a high-quality video. Make us your local video production company. Visit our website, rrt-productions.com, and contact us today. RRT Productions, we shoot, we edit, you win.
No matter the season, it's always the right time for Z's Cream of Bean. Whether you want to warm up with some of their delicious soups, chilies, or coffees, or sample from their delicious selection of ice cream, shakes, and other cool treats, Z's Cream of Bean has you covered. Visit them at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley, Ohio, and tell them the guys at Sports on Tap sent you.
For the best coverage of Cavs, Indians, and Browns, check out NEOSportsInsiders.com. NEOSportsInsiders.com brings you breaking news, opinions, and video from all things related to your favorite Cleveland sports teams. Like us on Facebook and follow at NEO Sports Insiders on Twitter for live updates from all the games. NEOSportsInsiders.com, bringing you the best in Northeast Ohio sports coverage.
Listen to our shows live on Mixer or join us the first Monday of every month at Z's Cream and Bean, located at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley. Want to listen to past shows? Go to our YouTube page or website, www.sportsontappodcast.com.
SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the place to go where you can listen to past shows, read featured articles, check out all of our social media updates, plus much, much more. SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the official website of Sports on Tap.
For up-to-the-minute info on local high school sports action, including photos, videos, and live updates, be sure to follow Sports on Tap on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook.
Can't go wrong with the Sports on Tap marching band. As we're in week 5.
Gotta love the tubas.
Got to. Our week 5 game recaps in the Greater Cleveland Conference, Southwestern Conference. We're going to dive into the Suburban National Division with Ed Dick here. I'm Rob Chung. We have Ed Dick, Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy here. And Ed, the National Division, we are intrigued by some matchups. Wadsworth obviously continues their winning ways, it seems like. And, this week we'll have to see if it's any different. Nordonia, I was interested to see how they would bounce back from last week's loss. And Cuyahoga Falls and Brecksville did really intrigue me as those two teams clashed also this week.
Yeah, and that's exactly where we are going to start. One winless streak that emanated from 2016 ended this week with the Cleveland Browns getting their first win in 20 games.
Baker.
All right, hot mic, relax.
Cuyahoga Falls had not won a game since week 1 of 2016, and in front of their home crowd, they looked to get that win against 0-4 Brecksville Broadview Heights. Both teams scored twice in the first half, with the Bees leading 14-12 at half. Black Tigers running back Rob Graves pulled Falls ahead 20-12, rushing for his second touchdown of the night from 5 yards out. Devin Mailer of the Brecksville Broadview Heights connected on a 30-yard field goal to cut the lead to 20-15. Graves then rushed for his third touchdown. Oh, sorry, that was my fault. 20-17. Graves rushed for his third touchdown. This one from 10 yards out. A 26-17 lead for the Cuyahoga Falls Black Tigers. The Bees turned the ball over on the Falls' 5-yard line, and shortly after, Graves rushed for a 65-yard touchdown, his fourth of the night, providing an insurmountable lead. They didn't stop there. They recovered the ensuing onside kick, and then a 20-yard touchdown pass from Bronovan Aaron Salt to Deshaun Brazil. Cuyahoga Falls can break open the Name Your Sports drink coolers and celebrate after ending their 23-game losing streak with a 44-31 win over Brecksville Broadview Heights.
Nice.
Junior running back Rob Graves rushed 32 times for 257 yards and 4 touchdowns. Senior wide receiver Deshaun Brazil, he had 5 passes. He caught 5 passes for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. And junior quarterback Bronovan Aaron Salt completed 9 of 17 passes for 209 yards. He had 2 interceptions, but he also had 3 touchdowns. Cuyahoga Falls improves to 1-4 overall, 1-1 in the Suburban League National Division. They will look for 2 in a row against visiting Wadsworth. Brecksville Broadview Heights, they remain winless, and they will look for their first win against visiting Twinsburg. Usually I go on to the next story pretty quickly after this, but congratulations to Cuyahoga Falls.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Getting off the schneid.
That's a great win for the program. It obviously comes at the expense of a team that I care that we cover. But someone's got to win, someone's got to lose. Cuyahoga Falls has been on the receiving end of many a boat race. They've come close a couple times, and this day they were able to pull it together. So, congratulations to Cuyahoga Falls getting their first victory of the year, and here's hoping they can string together a couple more in a very, very tough Suburban League National Division.
Shock the world next week.
Well, let's be real. I mean, if you have all of your teams in your conference that are capable of winning games, that only helps everyone else in the conference.
Word.
Unfortunately, there are some teams out there that don't win many games, if any, every year, and that's just kind of tough. And we were just talking about points earlier. Those kind of points are left at the table with teams that don't win. So, the more teams win, the better that everyone is.
Absolutely. And speaking of Wadsworth, they are undefeated. They are defending Suburban League National Division champions. They travel to Stowe Monroe Falls to take on the 1-3 Bulldogs. Stowe did start out fast as running back Bryce Shepard scored from 9 yards out in the Wildcat formation and a 7-0 lead. Wadsworth countered with a touchdown from special teams, and then they got a passing and a rushing touchdown and quickly took a 21-7 lead. They eventually pull away for a 48-21 victory for the Grizzlies. Wadsworth junior quarterback Trey Schaefer completed 21 of 32 passing for 308 yards and 2 touchdowns. Senior running back Brock Snowball rushed 11 times for 50 yards and a touchdown, and wide receiver, leading Medina County wide receiver Carson Risher, caught 6 passes for 88 yards and a touchdown. The Grizzlies improved to 5-0, 2-0 in the conference. They will travel to Cuyahoga Falls for a matchup with the red-hot Cuyahoga Falls Black Tigers. Still, Monroe Falls drops to 1-4 overall, 1-1 in the conference. They will host Macedonia Nordonia. Nordonia, coming off of their tough loss to undefeated Wadsworth, took on another Suburban League National Division stalwart in 1-3 Hudson. The Knights jumped to a quick 13-0 first quarter lead behind a 47-yard touchdown pass from quarterback Robbie Levac to wide receiver Brendan McDonald and a 3-yard touchdown run by running back Niles Beverly. Hudson pulled to within 6 with a 1-yard touchdown run by Quincy Edge. However, Beverly had other ideas. He countered with touchdown runs of 2 and 7 yards. Nordonia gets a 33-20 win over the Explorers. We saw Nordonia play Wadsworth very, very tough last week. They go into this Hudson game, another team that's traditionally very good in the Suburban League National Division. They get this one, and next week they're going to give it another go with another top contender in the Suburban League National Division in Stowe Munroe Falls. For Hudson, quarterback Liam Brennan for this game, he completed 12 of 34 passes for 171 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he also threw 3 interceptions. Brady Ludwig rushed 30 times for 168 yards for the Explorers. Knights quarterback Robbie Levac continues his dual threat, tremendous season. He passed for 178 yards and a touchdown. He also rushed 18 times for 155 yards. Tell you what, this kicker is putting himself together a great year. Evan Weehee made field goals of 38 and 46 yards for the Knights. Nordonia ups their record to 4-1 overall, 1-1 in the conference. They will take on 1-4 Stowe Munroe Falls. Hudson falls to 1-4 overall, 1-1 in the conference. They will host North Royalton. So two of the teams that we're used to seeing at the top of the standings right now, Stowe and Hudson, only have 1 win right now. That's something that we're not used to seeing from either of those squads. And I'm looking to see how they bounce back against some of these other tiered teams, Wadsworth notwithstanding, going forward. So the final game on the slate featured a battle of 2-2 teams as the Twinsburg Tigers traveled to North Royalton to take on the Bears. This was a back-and-forth affair, starting with a 1-yard touchdown run by Twinsburg's Jameer James. Bears wide receiver Riley Nurek promptly tied it up with a 91-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. The Tigers then jumped up 21-7 with 2 touchdown passes from senior quarterback Adam Van de Mater to Dominic Glenn and Jameel Banks, covering 46 and 31 yards respectively. Bears quarterback Joey Marisek struck back, first scoring on a 33-yard run to end the first half, then connecting with wide receiver Bradley Kometz on a 50-yard touchdown pass to tie the game at 21. Van de Mater then found James Bissett for a 16-yard touchdown pass, and what ended up being the deciding score for a 28-21 victory, the Twinsburg Tigers over the North Royalton Bears. Van de Mater returned from a concussion in Week 3. He completed only 5 passes for 5 of 12 passing for 109 yards, but he also threw 3 touchdowns. The Tigers had a very clear game plan in going into this game. They wanted to keep the Bears' high-octane offense off the field, keep Marisek on the sidelines, and that's exactly what they did. They rushed 57 times for 268 yards, in addition to Van de Mater's 12 passes, to keep Marisek off the field. And it's a good thing they did, because Marisek proved pretty efficient when he got on the field. He completed 8 of 16 passing for 147 yards and a touchdown. He also rushed for 36 yards. Twinsburg is 3-2 overall. They are undefeated in the league. They will travel to winless Brecksville Broadview Heights.
Bees.
North Royalton is 2-3. They are 0-2. They will travel to 1-4 Hudson.
Explorers.
My player of the week, it clearly had to be somebody from Cuyahoga Falls, and he sure as hell deserved it. Cuyahoga Falls running back Rob Graves. He had 32 carries for 257 yards and 4 touchdowns, leading the Black Tigers into a victory over the Brecksville Broadview Heights Bees. So congratulations once again to Rob Graves and Cuyahoga Falls, and
absolutely,
we got a pretty solid slate of games next week, and we're going to see where things are going to fall out here. Right now, there are 3 teams in playoff position. Wadsworth, Twinsburg, and Nordonia are all in the playoffs if they were to end today. Wadsworth is atop of Division 2, Region 7. Nordonia is number 5 in Division 2, Region 5, and Twinsburg is number 8 in Division 2, Region 5. The rest of the teams right now with only 1 win. Sands North Royalton, they have 2 wins. However, they don't have any wins in the conference yet. They have some work to do. So,
nice work, and congratulations to Cuyahoga Falls getting that first win.
That's gotta feel good.
Yeah,
It does.
I mean,
It does.
And you know what I'm more impressed with is the fact that, they got off to a rough start. They didn't have any wins so far on the season, but they didn't give up. And come into a game like this, it's probably easy just to get down pretty quick. And, they went into this game and expected to win, and they came out with a W there.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't. And obviously, Brecksville Broadview Heights practices, they try their hardest too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But quite honestly, like I've said before, we've been talking to them way too long about Cuyahoga Falls being on the wrong end of the column here. So with apologies to Brecksville Broadview Heights, it's good to see Cuyahoga Falls get off the schneid and get back into the win column. And I'm sure Brecksville Broadview Heights, they will take they'll have the opportunities over the next 5 games to do the same. All right, we'll kick it over to the Suburban League American Division with my cohort, my colleague, my compadre, Sean Duffy.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you very much. Guys, we're in Week 5 of the American Division. We're going to start off with Aurora traveling to Roosevelt, and despite a 30-minute weather delay for Lightning, Aurora was able to cruise to a convincing 34-6 win on the road against the Rough Riders. Aurora was led offensively by quarterback Colin McNamara, who had 1 passing touchdown on the night and a 20-yard touchdown run on the night. Running backs Jordan D'Amico had a 42-yard touchdown run, and Aurora running back Jack Arnold had a 2-yard touchdown run. The story of this game, though, was the Aurora's defense. They were dominating, limiting the Rough Riders to only 1 touchdown, and that came as a result of a McNamara interception deep in Aurora territory. Roosevelt could not get anything going against the Green Men defense. They are 2-3 overall, 0-2 in the conference. They will look to rebound in Week 6 as they host Talmadge. Aurora is 4-1 and 2-0 in the conference, and they host Barberton in a huge conference matchup in Week 6. Speaking of Barberton had hosted Copley, and they were able to they were able to ride a great second-half performance by running back Kyrie Young to secure a 31-14 comeback victory over the visiting Indians. Copley jumped out early in this one to a 14-3 lead thanks to 2 touchdown passes from quarterback Joseph Riho. One of those touchdown passes to Malik Spragling and the other to Tyson Durant. Barberton running back Kyrie Thompson broke out in the second half, racking up 177 yards on 16 carries and 1 touchdown. Barberton quarterback Chase Haywood also had a touchdown pass to Charles Hornacek, and the one thing by all accounts was this touchdown pass to Hornacek, and the reason I have it in my notes here is because essentially what happened was Chase Haywood lofted it into the end zone, and it basically bounced off 2 Copley defenders and fell into Hornacek's lap as he was laying in the end zone. So it was almost like it was either going to be caught or incomplete. So I guess, you got to sometimes better be lucky than good, I guess. Another great defensive performance by the Barberton Magics as they shut out the Indians in the second half. 2 interceptions were had by the Magics. Both of those went for scores, and they held Copley to just 67 yards in the half. Copley is 2-3 overall and 0-1 in the conference play. They will host Revere in Week 6. And as I mentioned, Barberton now 5-0 and 2-0 in the conference will travel to take on Aurora. Rounding out conference play in an intriguing matchup in Highland, Revere travel in to take on the Hornets, and Highland Hornets continue their winning ways as they manage a 35-14 home win against the visiting Minutemen. Highland was led offensively by Jack McGinty, quarterback, with 12 carries for 47 yards, also going 12 of 19, 140 yards, and 2 passing touchdowns. All-world running back Jake Rogers had 20 carries and 147 yards on 3 TDs, and this was only in 3 quarters of play as he actually got hurt in the fourth quarter and missed the majority of it with what Coach Gibbons mentioned was a cut that wouldn't essentially close, so he couldn't play the fourth quarter. Wide receiver Brady Linder and Bryce Profit both had touchdown catches on the night. Revere was led offensively by quarterback Nate Klonowski, who went 10 for 28, 138 yards of passing, and 1 touchdown. Unfortunately, he also had 2 interceptions on the night. Matt Busser had 10 carries for 74 yards and 5 catches for 67 yards. Revere is 3-2 overall and 0-2 in the conference. They will travel to Copley in Week 6. Highland is 4-1 and 2-0 in the conference. They host Greene in a Week 6 non-conference matchup. And speaking of non-conference matchups, one of those was this week's non-conference matchup was Talmadge traveling into Dover, and they probably should have turned around right after the first half because Talmadge ran into a buzzsaw as they were crushed by Dover 42-8 in Week 5. Dover's Alex Sayer ran for 3 touchdowns and threw for 3 more for a total of 6 on the night. Talmadge's only touchdown came on a 5-yard touchdown run from Rich Ayer. Talmadge's net falls to 2-3 overall, 0-1 in the conference. They travel to take on Roosevelt in Week 6. My player of the week, I'm going to give it to Aurora's Colin McNamara, who led his team with 1 passing touchdown and a 20-yard touchdown run. Guys, the Suburban American League has 3 teams all sitting at 2-0. 2 of those teams play next week. And, in fact, Aurora has an opportunity to basically write its own destiny as they take on Barberton next week and Highland the week after. If they get through both of those teams with wins, they wrap up this division by week 7.
And how about Highland's turnaround? I mean, that's a big win. Revere, we know about them on the season because they knocked off Buckeye early on, and it seemed like they were going to have a pretty strong year. And Highland just absolutely with domination there.
You know, despite Highland's really turnaround, they're 4-1, but they're tied for 8th, and they're in Division II, Region 7. They need to beat Barberton in order to really make some noise in that particular region. Simply because they're, as we mentioned, their level 2 points are not good enough, I don't think, to get them through. They need to knock off Aurora, but they definitely need to knock off Barberton, who's currently sits second in Division II, Region 7, behind the Wadsworth Grizzlies from the National Division. Other teams, obviously Aurora's in the playoff hunt, and again, really those are the only 2. Revere has an outside shot in their division, but they got to pull off some wins. So, you know, definitely looking forward to the next couple of weeks. It's going to be a decisive couple of weeks here in the American Division. Moving on, guys, I have it written down here. I just want to make sure we're all aware. Doing the Buckeye recap, I got to say it 3 times. Doing the Buckeye recap. Rob,
and you know what?
Buckeye recap.
And you know what? And people that are listening to this are probably like, is this guy stuttering?
No.
They probably have no clue.
No, you know what it is? I could just see you where you were typing that little piece of paper out with your bold and your explanation points. And
yeah, they're all there, bold and
well, hey, let me send this.
Exclamation points. You were laughing.
You said explanation points.
Yes,
so.
I know I did.
Here, I'll send it back over to my compadre, the Papa Kadoosh.
Now you're just making things up.
You know,
Ed and I have is shorthand between us because we're Suburban League, American, and National Division cohorts. Don't cheapen it.
But the one thing that I always wanted to know.
Oh wait, I can't wait.
Here we go.
Oh, here it is.
No, it was one thing that I forgot. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, you're funny. Well.
Just tell us the one thing about
the one thing is I want to get to this Buckeye recap before you make me do it again because you're not paying attention during the show. So
wait, I thought you already did this recap.
No. See, that's again the problem we run into, Rob. That's the issue we run into.
Well, it's those golden pipes here. It just kind of lulls you to sleep.
Yeah.
Like our listeners right now. Wake up, everyone out there.
Yes,
Sean's
please.
done.
I'm almost done. I'm almost done, and I'm done for the night.
What do you got to do yet? Oh, yeah, the Buckeye recap.
Buckeye recap.
Sorry.
So, yeah, Buckeye hosted Columbia in a pretty great matchup here. This was a back-and-forth game. The Buckeyes were able to eke out in a 38-35 victory over the visiting Columbia Raiders. Buckeye was led offensively by quarterback Jacob Durkee, who had 24 carries for 110 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. He also went 7 for 12 for 70 yards passing. Running back Dom Monaco went 12 carries, 98 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Anthony Watkins chipped in with an 85-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. Buckeye goes to 4-1 after a really tough-fought win over Columbia. They travel to Wellington in a Week 6 matchup. Guys, Buckeye is kind of finding their rhythm here, and it's a dangerous thing for teams they have to play because a Buckeye team in rhythm is a tough team to stop. So my hat's off to Jacob Durkee and Dom Monaco, who we saw when we were at Lutheran West. And, I mean, it's those two guys, when they start really hitting on all cylinders, it's fun to watch if you're a Buckeye fan. But if you're a fan of the other team, it's not much fun.
Well, Buckeye's always been fundamentally sound. When we saw them play Lutheran West, I think that's the one thing that even the opposing at Lutheran West, their fans and coaches said is they're just fundamentally sound. They have great leadership. and they're very well coached. And Coach Dennison said with his players that there's just a lot of good leaders on the team. They know how to lead from juniors all the way down to the freshmen and even further than that. And it shows on Friday nights, and they continue to win. They might lose a game, which might, I think Coach Dennison said, we were surprised a little bit by the Revere game, and I think some of the players were, but they got back on track. They believe in what they're doing, and they continue to win. That's a big win versus Columbia, because Columbia is a very good football school.
Yes.
So
they're a very good team, and they came in and they played very well against Buckeye. And really, this was a back-and-forth game, and it came down to Buckeye having the ball last and being able to score. And again, I mean, Buckeye does a very good job of limiting teams of offensive possessions. Their defense bends, doesn't really break that much. And, their offense is just it's predicated on ball control and just 4 yards in a cloud of dust every time they run, and they're okay with it.
Well, they needed to do the best they could against Brandon Coleman, and you could argue that Brandon Coleman still had a really, really good night.
He had a very good night, yes.
I mean, I don't think you could say they stopped him by any stretch of the imagination. But
what was his yardage total again? Do we have that? Or
I can pull that up.
I didn't know.
I should have it.
That's the
he's
best.
Very impressive.
That's the best thing. The best thing that you can do when you're playing a team that has a great player like that is, all right, he's going to get his.
Yeah.
So Brandon Coleman's going to get his yards. So you have to limit everybody else.
Right.
And Columbia is a very diverse team, and they can throw the ball, and they obviously have a stud running back in Brandon Coleman. But defensive coordinator, our old friend of the show, Luke Beal, found a way to keep them out of the end zone when they needed to the most. They were able to thwart their last second try to tie the game, and it's another good win for Buckeye. They, as you guys have said, as we've talked about, they've gotten their bearings right after that early season loss to what's so far a decent Revere team. Revere still has some things to prove in their own right. They still need to beat one of the top 3 teams in the Suburban League American Division, which they haven't been successful so far. But we'll see what Buckeye can do here against Wellington in Week 6.
Yeah, and just as a note, Brandon Coleman ended up with 17 carries, 191 yards, 3 touchdowns, and also chipped in 4 catches and 59 yards. So you're right, Ed. The defense was really having a tough time corralling him. And he's a special kind of player for Columbia, and he does a very good job for them. And it showed against a really good Buckeye team. And I think this was a very good effort. Unfortunately, they didn't come out on the winning end of it, and that's a tough thing for any team to really discuss. But hats off to the Buckeye Bucks, man. They had a tough loss against Revere, and they bounced back. They've gotten better each week, which is scary because you wonder what kind of team they're going to be come week 8, 9, 10 when they and into a possible playoff picture here, and seeing what kind of team they are going into those playoffs.
Yeah, and surprising he only had 17 carries, but Dom Monaco and the Buckeye Bucks getting it done.
Yep. Guys, I did the Buckeye recap.
That's right. We'll ask you again.
Look at me. I did the Buckeye recap.
Gosh, he certainly is special, folks. Right now, we're going to step away. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Sports on Tap's Game of the Week for Week 5, which featured the Euclid Panthers traveling to the Elyria Pioneers in a GCC matchup. Sponsor is Westlake Interior Painting. Want to thank them for jumping on board. But we'll give that recap, and we'll tell you about where we're at this Friday for Sports on Tap's Game of the Week. All coming back, we're Sports on Tap.
Are you a business? Want to be featured on Sports on Tap? Get in front of different age groups in the local community. Contact us at sportsontap.podcast@gmail.com for more information. RRT Productions, specializing in creating sports recruiting videos for all high school athletes. Want to play at the next level? Promote your talents with a video to send colleges. Affordable, experienced, and a high-quality video. Make us your local video production company. Visit our website, rrt-productions.com, and contact us today. RRT Productions, we shoot, we edit, you win.
No matter the season, it's always the right time for Z's Cream of Bean. Whether you want to warm up with some of their delicious soups, chilies, or coffees, or sample from their delicious selection of ice cream, shakes, and other cool treats, Z's Cream of Bean has you covered. Visit them at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley, Ohio, and tell them the guys at Sports on Tap sent you.
For the best coverage of Cavs, Indians, and Browns, check out NEOSportsinsiders.com. NEOSportsinsiders.com brings you breaking news, opinions, and video from all things related to your favorite Cleveland sports teams. Like us on Facebook and follow at NEOSportsinsiders on Twitter for live updates from all the games. NEOSportsinsiders.com, bringing you the best in Northeast Ohio sports coverage.
Listen to our shows live on Mixer or join us the first Monday of every month at Z's Cream and Bean, located at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley. Want to listen to past shows? Go to our YouTube page or website, www.sportsontappodcast.com.
SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the place to go where you can listen to past shows, read featured articles, check out all of our social media updates, plus much, much more. SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the official website of Sports on Tap.
For up-to-the-minute info on local high school sports action, including photos, videos, and live updates, be sure to follow Sports on Tap on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook.
SOT Band, folks, right here in Studio J. I'm Rob Tron. We have Ed Nick, Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy. You can find us at SOT Podcast on Twitter. Go to sportsontap.podcast.com.
We may be the best damn air band in the land.
That's right, man.
They're getting so good.
No doubt about that. And also check out our YouTube page. You can listen to all of our archived recaps from week to week. Also interviews from coaches, players from earlier on this season. But right now we're going to go over to Sean Duffy, who's going to give the Buckeye recap.
Yep, we already did that.
Oh, you did that?
We did that already. Yep.
All right, man, let's go to the game of the week.
Wow.
Let's go to
literally did it before the break.
Let's go to the Sports on Tap game of the week. Our sponsor was Westlake Interior Painting. Want to thank them for joining the
For
SOT
all
game
your
of the
interior
week.
painting needs,
That's right.
contact Westlake Interior Painting.
I know, quality painting. If you want it to look like a pro, you're trying to sell your house even, you want a pro to come on in.
Or even if you just want to update it, make it look good. Bring in Westlake
right.
Interior Painting because they do a fantastic job.
Absolutely.
Very professional, and they're very competitive priced.
All right. Well, Josh, we were in Elyria.
Yeah, nice
For the
Eli Stadium,
Oh,
brand
man.
new, very, very nice. Kudos to Elyria; they did a great job building that stadium.
Yeah, I mean the new turf. The stands are brand new, nice press box. It's a great atmosphere. Even when you walk up, we were actually leaving and you saw the red lights.
Pioneer Way,
Yeah.
yeah, Pioneer Way. Nice little decorative kind of design there, architectural design, walkway leading up. The band, when we got there, the band was ready to go coming on in. It was a really good scenery for a football game. Unfortunately, we didn't get much of a game in this one.
No, it was a tough game, really, when you look at it for Elyria. And Elyria is a good young team trying to get back, kind of on track. They're struggling a little bit this year, but Euclid just very impressive. And, when you look at Euclid, only needed 2 plays for their first touchdown. I mean, I think that they kind of set the tone early with running back Brandon Wright. He went 12 yards. And put the Euclid Panthers up 7-0. And then the Panthers, they would score on their next 4 possessions. And I think we saw not only a balanced attack by Euclid, but, their running game was impressive with Brandon Wright. But then wide receiver Trayshawn Luton had 2 touchdowns in the game as well.
Yeah, consecutively he had 2 touchdowns. Brandon Wright, Division I recruit. Michigan State has been looking at him pretty hard. He only had 4 carries in this game, although all 4 went for 122 yards, and he had 2 touchdowns. So you can kind of imagine how this went for Elyria in this one.
And I'm sure he probably had a high average on those
Right.
yards because there were some big gains. Jambir Muhammad, or Muhad, sorry if I said it wrong, added an 11-yard touchdown late in the first quarter. Then Brandon Wright had a 53-yard touchdown. It was 35-0, and this is early into the second quarter, and you could tell Illyria's offense, they weren't moving the ball, a few turnovers, and, when you play a good team like Euclid that has the weapons they do, it's just tough to come back. I mean, they're just very fundamentally sound all around.
Yeah, and Elyria, with their lack of offense, really put them back. Euclid, for most of that first half, was getting great field position to start their drives. Most of them were in Elyria territory. In fact, Euclid did not start a drive in their own territory. This was the 49-yard line, their own 49-yard line, until midway through the second quarter. So it was just a rough start for Elyria, and it didn't get much better in the second half.
Well, yeah, you even said, I thought you had a great point in your article, that Elyria had 8 possessions in the first half that resulted in 4 punts, 2 turnover on downs, and 2 fumbles. I mean, that's crucial. But, you look at going into halftime, there was a running clock going into the second half, which, I think is a good rule, really, when you get the game too far out of hand. But on the kickoff, actually, there was a running clock during the second half. Euclid, they had another touchdown. It was Tyon Parks from 1 yard out. Then they actually went for a 2-point that was no good, and it was 55-0 at this point. And Euclid cruised to a 55-0 victory. Really, in the second half, there wasn't much that happened other than a touchdown right there, but not too much scoring and not too much movement really by Elyria either. They did get past midfield and had a solid drive, but again, weren't able to punch it in. Euclid now, though, Josh, how impressive are they in the GCC? 4-1, 2-0, and they look to continue by hosting Strongsville. They're winning ways against the Mustangs and Elyria. They're 0-5, 0-2. They travel to Shaker Heights and take on the Red Raiders.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about the offense in this game for the Panthers as they scored on their their first 5 possessions of the game. Their defense, though, really was hammering down Elyria. For Elyria, their total offense, 47 yards of total offense, and the rushing game was really hurt just by the defense. In fact, the rushing game for Elyria only had negative 17 rushing yards as a team.
Ooh,
so you
man.
can kind of see with a lack of any kind of plays being made on the offensive end, it's when the defense is going to buckle down and just attack, and that's exactly what Euclid did.
Yeah, and their wins on the season have been impressive. Their only loss coming to St. Ignatius, so they have some solid wins, and obviously they're going to get into the thick of the GCC coming up, and that's how tough the GCC is. We talked to a few people on the sidelines, and everybody says the same thing. What a conference and a meat grinder it is, and then especially when Elyria is a young team, trying to win the GCC. There's really no breaks in between games to try to recover, and I mean there's no easy games realistically.
No, even with some teams on the schedule who aren't as successful as we're used to seeing them, you have to play those games, and you don't know when Elyria can come to play and get a game on you. You can't sleep on a Brunswick, ever. That could be the game that everything comes together, and a team who has not played their best game can play their best game against you and then get that victory. And really spoil some playoff aspirations, which is what right now Elyria and Brunswick right now are. That's what both those squads are going to try to do.
Spoilers
for the rest of the year. And the last thing you want to do is play a team that wants to spoil your season.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, now we'll go to what's going to be our game of the week coming up here on Friday.
We're going to go to the one-man band, Sean
Yes,
Duffy, for the announcement.
The announcement is our Week 6 game of the week is going to be the Barberton Magics at 5-0 travels to take on Aurora and the Green Men, who are 4-1. This is going to be the decisive game in the American Division. If Barberton holds on, they get moved to 6-0, and they can control their own destiny until they play Highland at the end of the season for the outright conference championship. But if Aurora can do what they seem to be able to do every year and get these quality wins against not only Barberton but set themselves up to play Highland, and both of these games, Barberton and Highland, are at home this year. That's big. That's huge. So we will be out in Aurora dressed in our best, our shirts, our hats, and I will be in the press box writing up a nice little recap. First time ever we're going to Aurora. Very excited about that. I hear it's a raucous crowd. But it's probably going to be a really great matchup in the American Division. I look for, Aurora's defense is playing well. Barberton's offense is explosive. You got to wonder what's going to give there. This may come down to special teams. This may come down to a crazy play. Who knows? But, I'm very, very excited about this game. Very excited to take the Sports on Tap road trip that we are out to the Aurora area and, get used to get a nice little sense of what it's like Friday nights in Green Men Stadium.
Yeah, it's always a great atmosphere. You see it. You see Aurora on the news all the time. I mean, good student section, and they'll probably be rocking. And Barberton will probably travel well in this one,
is a
too.
big game for them. This is a really – Barberton, they lost – I believe they lost to them last year at home, and that kind of – they had to play scoreboard watch a little bit towards the end of the season. But, I'm really looking forward to seeing how Aurora's defense matches up against Barberton's offense and vice versa. Barberton's defense has been very good all year. They've been able to kind of stifle opponents on the ground and through the air. It's going to be a very fun matchup. I really look forward to seeing, the Colin McNamara, and I really want to take a look at Kyrie Thompson for Barberton. This guy has just been their workhorse, and I believe he's only a sophomore, so he's only going to get better. He's been a bell cow for them, and it's going to be fun to watch how they kind of corral him into the game. So we'll be out there, doing our thing.
Yeah, check us out. Say hi.
Rob or Josh will be patrolling the sidelines with their cameras out. Be sure to throw popcorn at them, or get their attention so they can get on our video feed, and we'll be live tweeting the game and doing a recap.
Yeah, so go to @SOT Podcast on Twitter for all the in-game updates, video. There'll be pictures there, update you on the score. Again, go to our YouTube page for archived of all of our interviews that we've done so far this year and past years. Also, our game recaps are all right there. We're on Facebook, Instagram. Look for us all over the place. SportsOnTapPodcast.com. And let's throw it to Ed Dick.
We'll do our obligatory follow-up of the Dayton-Cincinnati area football. So,
Fayetteville had a big matchup, right?
Yes, starting with Fayetteville Rockets. They took on previously unbeaten Batavia. They were 4-0 going to this matchup. So we had two unbeatens. Batavia, they were able to work their wing tee exactly as Coach Finch did not want. They suffer a 42-8 loss to Batavia.
Ooh.
Batavia moves to 5-0 overall. Fayetteville drops to 4-1. They will start conference play against Batavia Clearmont Northeastern, which is their rival. They are 3-2, and then the rest of their schedule looks very winnable as far as games are concerned. But as we talked about in the entire theme for this entire show tonight has been second-level points for Joe on JoeATL.com. Right now, Fayetteville has 3.5. So they are 4-1 right now with an average of 3.15 points. The top seed right now is Coldwater. They have 11.3. They are 5-0. They have 69 level 2 points. So that tells you that whoever Coldwater is beating, they are winning games. And unfortunately, the teams that Fayetteville has defeated up to this point have not helped them out very much. And short of beating Clearmont Northeastern and running the table, they're going to need help from a lot of teams, both from on their schedule and probably ahead of them, to sneak them up into that 8th playoff spot. But regardless, the conference championship is still well in play for Fayetteville, and we'll see what they can do against Clearmont Northeastern next week.
Yeah, it depends how they are going to respond. It's always interesting to see how these high school teams respond after a loss and see if they can keep their hopes alive. Now, Sean Duffy for his update. Are you doing Buckeye or are you doing
No.
Okay.
Already did Buckeye.
Okay.
Gonna do my alma mater, the Vandalia Butler Aviators, and my Aviators had a good week. A tough week. They won. They beat Xenia 13-7 in overtime to improve to 3-2 on the year. It was a great win for the Butler Aviators. Xenia is a very good team.
What's their record on the year?
Their record
Xenia.
is 3-2 as well. Both teams were 2-2 coming into the game.
Game.
Xenia was 3-1, whereas Butler was 2-2 going into the game.
It's a solid win.
So an overtime win, big win for the Aviators. They currently sit actually in Division III, Region 12. They sit in the 4th seed right now behind Chaminade Julian out of Dayton, Trotwood Madison, and Wapakoneta. What is interesting, and as Ed pointed out, is those level 2 points. They have 48.0 level 2 points, and their level 1 points are 17.5. So there's points out there. Hopefully this springboards them into doing continuing the winning ways. They have a tough matchup against a 3-2 squad in Greenville. And then right after that, I believe their homecoming is against the Troy Trojans out of Troy, Ohio. So congratulations to the Butler Aviators. You guys continue your winning ways, and I'll be following you.
Yeah, it's a big win against a good Xenia team. So hopefully Xenia can keep winning so they can keep getting those points. All right, guys, any last thoughts on Week 5 as we close down Week 5 and
Can't believe it's already week
get
5
ready to
over.
Week 6?
It's going quick.
It's been going almost too quick, but great weeks. Congratulations to all the teams that won and played well, and we'll look forward to Week 6 in our conferences. All right, for Ed Dick, Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy, I'm Rob Troutman saying so long for Sports on Tap. Everyone have a great Friday. Have a great week, and good luck to all the high school football teams out there playing on Friday night and Saturday. We'll see you later.